What's up, everybody? It's your mental activist, Montoya Smith, trying to get one of our guests on. So I'm going to hit y'all with a little intro till we hopefully get the guest on.
When black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together.
Truth seekers, please understand, mental dialogue is much more than just a...
All right, y'all, we got everything together here. Got Sister Latrice on. Let's just check your audio real quick. I know we can't see you, but hopefully you're okay. She's still trying to figure it out, y'all. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing started as I get my co-host Latrice Ross on. This is the Mental Dialogue Perspective, our new format. If y'all are familiar with our long-time run on Blog Talk Radio, we used to rock every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a special edition show for one of our long-time Mental Dialogue members is with us, Adeline Gassana. So thank you for being with us. You've been on the Mental Dialogue show before. This is your first time with us on the Mental Dialogue Perspective. And just to give a little the difference on the perspective versus the show is we basically react to clips around the internet in reference to race, sex, and culture. But this show, we're talking specifically about black land ownership, and you have a documentary coming up, but we're going to share the details to that later. But if you will, just give your individual, anything you want to share with people as far as your background, and you can keep it short and sweet because we want to get into these actual cuts and just start going back and forth. And if y'all are in the comments, we'll make sure we're reading y'all comments as well. But Adeline, thank you for being on the Mental Dialogue Perspective for the first time.
Appreciate it, Montoya. Thank you again for this. Again, my name's Brandon Fulton. I've been a documentary filmmaker for as long as I can remember, since my adult years. I've been at this for 2 decades now. And the documentary we're talking certainly about is the documentary we're working on for about two and a half years, whatnot, and we're excited for it. It's thought provoking. It's in and out. And for my work in documentary, I do everything from A to Z. I edit it, produce it, shoot it, record it, write it, direct it, research it, all the 9. And we're excited for this moment.
All right, let's take a shot at Latrice. She's been trying to get on a few times. All right, Queen, you with us this morning? I'm supposed to do this in the morning. So the special edition, let me get oriented. This is the evening, the afternoon, or the evening, actually. So thank you for being with us, Queen.
Thanks. Yeah, I got a new laptop, so it's something wrong with the internal camera on it.
Okay. All right, well, you figured it out. If you will, introduce yourself, tell people your background, and we're going to start with our cuts and start getting our reactions to them.
Sure. My name's Latrice Ross, and I am a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant professional. I've been doing it before it was popular and back to being unpopular. Since I've been doing this since about 2012. So quite a few years, and something I'm passionate about. I do whether I get paid for it or not because I think it's important.
No, I love it. So glad to have your perspective because we need it when we have these difficult conversations on race, sex, and culture. I'm looking forward to today's discussion as we're talking about black land ownership. As I was mentioning, I think you were coming on as you and Adeline and y'all are both members of the Mental Dialogue Community Club. But, you know, he's 2 years working on his documentary. So we're going to kind of introduce that a little later in the show because I wanted to give some history and context to this concept of black land ownership. I think anybody out there watching, if you're watching this show, most of you are probably familiar with the history of we as a collective, we owned a lot of farmable land early in the 1900s, and then we have a lot less farmable land now. And so this is an issue that I don't know if it's Latrice, but you have some scratching in the background, possibly. Just curious. That's you. Okay, no. I don't know if that. All right, I just hear it every now and then. So we'll make do. You know, you never know with technology. All right, just checking. But with that said, we definitely want to get into some background before we get into Adeline's documentary. So let's go ahead and start with the clip, and I'll get both of y'all reactions. And again, if you're watching and put comments in the put your comments out there, we'll make sure we get to those as well. But let's start with this clip right here.
What's up, family? It's your girl, Constance Carter here, and today's Black History Spotlight. Today, we diving into the truth that often gets buried, how thriving Black communities built with hard work, resilience, and brilliance were intentionally destroyed due to systematic racism. We know about Tulsa's Black Wall Street, but that was just one of many. Now check out a few of these neighborhoods that were intentionally destroyed.
Bronzeville. This was a community in Chicago, Illinois. Let me tell you about Bronzeville. This historically Black neighborhood saw large sections demolished under urban renewal projects. The west end of Boston, this was a home to a racially mixed but economically stable Black and immigrant population. It was destroyed in the name of urban renewal. It was replaced with luxury housing, displacing low-income residents. Historically Black Bottom neighborhood was destroyed under the guise of urban renewal. This area was a home to thriving Black businesses and families, displacing thousands without fair compensation. Elmwood, this is in Syracuse, New York. This was a vibrant Black community. Families were forced to leave their homes with inadequate compensation, leaving lasting economic scars. So when you look at the Fillmore district in San Francisco in the 1950s to the 70s, this was once called the Harlem of the West. The Fillmore district was targeted for urban renewal. Over 2,500 Black residents were displaced and hundreds of Black-owned businesses were destroyed. After the white mobs destroyed the prosperous Black Wall Street in Ringwood, Oklahoma, urban renewal policies prevented Black residents from rebuilding. The area was later redeveloped for white-owned businesses. Gas Plant District in St. Petersburg, Florida. This was a historically Black neighborhood, and it was torn down to make a way for Tropicana Field, the home stadium of the Tampa Bay Rays. Residents were displaced and promised benefits for the community, but it was never delivered. The Haiti District of Durham, North Carolina. This known as prosperous Black neighborhood and a symbol of Black independence. The Haiti district was dismantled for construction of Highway 147. Residents were displaced and the community's economic base was destroyed. The Lower District, Hill District, a predominantly Black neighborhood, was destroyed to build the civic arena. The project displaced over 8,000 Black residences and destroyed over 400 businesses. And then you have the Rondo neighborhood, which in St. Paul, Minnesota. A tight-knit Black community was split in half by the construction of Interstate 94, uprooting families and businesses with little or no reparations.
Now, these were not accidents. They were deliberate acts meant to halt Black progress, steal Black wealth, and break Black communities. But family, our history also shows that we are builders, innovators, and survivors. So let's honor these communities by continuing to build and protect Black wealth. That's why we got to stay woke, wealthy, outstanding, knowledgeable, and empowered. Our legacy is too rich to be erased.
A deep history, right? A deep history. Everybody knows about Tulsa. The reality to Tulsa, just to give a little context to the Black Wall Street that everybody highlights. The reality to that is the history was so buried intentionally by the state of Oklahoma that the idea of people even finding out about it, and when I say intentionally buried, the void, all of the writings, anything about it was basically took out of the school system and that type of thing, that the residents of Tulsa only recently were aware of. When I say recently, I would say as of the last 15 to 20 years at the most. Because when it came to light about 15 to 20 years ago, that's when the story got big. So the state itself intentionally buried it. And we also know, I had this brother by the name of Jim Klingman on one of my first original shows. He interviewed the last 8 survivors, and because it was such a traumatic situation, the survivors were scared to talk about it in fear of that it would happen again. Some of you may have seen some of the documentaries and the survivors saying that, but I'm just kind of highlighting specifically the one that we all know about, and that video highlights. I know when I watched it, even though I've done some research to know that there were more places like Tulsa that were destroyed, that video highlighted some specific ones that I had never heard about. So I just wanted to give a lot of context. Latrice, I'll start with you as the queen of the show today, but just any response, because again, if we're going to talk about Black land ownership even today, I think it's very important that we put some context on what actually happened in our history, because I think the way we talk about it today, we actually think our ancestors gave away the land, or because they got integrated, they decided to do something else, and that is far from the reality. Go ahead, Queen.
So it's funny that you asked about this, because I'd actually just finished writing a series for Substack called Paved Over Dreams, which talks about specifically how the highways in the U.S. that cut through or paved over Black communities. And one of the things that I'd actually forgotten about was that the Pentagon was built on a Black community. Dulles Airport was built on top of a Black community. Central Park was, was displaced a Black community. And I think that, and when I talked to, I've spoken to a couple of my friends about what I was writing, and they were like, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that." So it's not only Tulsa that folks don't know about. They don't know about Sweet Auburn community that was paved over here in Atlanta. So I think it's time that we learn, that we take ownership of ensuring that we make certain that if no one else knows, that our community knows what our history is, because I think it might change the narrative for those folks who might suffer from a bit of internalized racism and think that Black folk are just lazy and don't want anything. So.
No, absolutely. And I agree with you 1000% on us knowing, but not for the sake of knowing, right? Like, we're in a time now where information comes fast,
Right.
and some people think just even having this dialogue is just revisiting hurt, revisiting pain from the idea of no reason at all. But I would highlight, especially with the work that we're going to see here later from Adeline, that if Black land ownership is of importance, I would offer that the context of history will actually play a role in being diligent, like diligent currently now, like understanding exactly what happened will actually make you more diligent. So versus people saying, "Oh, we're lazy," or "we didn't do." Well, if you don't understand what happened, one, no, we were never lazy. Definitely, it was actually damn near a miracle for our ancestors to get up to 16 million acres of land by 1910, just so many years removed from the Emancipation Proclamation. And so we actually did that. And now in 2025, without understanding exactly what happened with the history, we assume that it was something we did for it just to go away. Adeline, your thoughts on that video highlighting several of the Black enclaves? I always like to highlight this when I say this as well. We wrote, not only do we, in a sense, sometimes denounce our ancestors unknowingly, that's not our attempt. We assume there's something wrong with us and what they did in giving it away, or whatever the case may be, or people will even acknowledge that it was destroyed, right? People will do that. But also what happens is, even when we discover these Black enclaves, sometimes we romanticize them as if that's what the majority of our community experienced. That's not the reality either. Even the 16 million acres of farmable land sounds like a lot. In reality, it was 1.8% of the owned land that was owned in the country at the time. So even at our best, we owned about 2% of the land. I like to put the full, y'all know me, I like to give the full context, because I'm not painting a picture. It's the information so we can actually make a good decision. All right, Adam, it's sorry to take us so long, but I just wanted to really give that context and hear your thoughts to this as well.
I mean, you said it right, man. Context is key to understanding all of these historical precedents that's happened. And in many ways, gentrification, even though it's kind of codified as like a new term or a new terminology, it's been relatively here from the beginning. It's just took on different forms. And what's interesting about this conversation is that you're right; it is not out of a vacuum. There's certain historical stems that dated, post, as you noted, post slavery through emancipation, the days of sharecroppers. Land was the next get for Black mobility in the United States of America. And then what you see over time with redlining, gentrification back in the 1940s and 50s, where certain communities were historically marginalized or put to the margins, is that it is done through the rules and regulations of that given time. And so what's interesting is that sometimes we illustrate this as if it's somebody coming in there and just stripping people away from their rights, as far as land rights, human rights, civil rights. It's really just through the rules and regulations, names taken off deeds, heirs' property being, thwarted, just really legal maneuvers that's happening, which is very insidious, very subtle, and it affects city dwellers, city urban life to those in the rural farms and the rural areas of our culture right now. So it's such an interesting thing to see how consistent this
Yes.
movement has. And I'm glad you're bringing in the context, because this is nothing new. It's just taking different forms.
No, I love that. And the key word of what you said to me was how consistent it has been, the different forms that it has taken. And Latrice, you remember on the Mental Dialogue show, we did that real deep show about critical race theory and how it got misnomered and mislabeled. And not that our school systems were ever willing to talk about all of those insidious ways that Adeline just spoke about from a legal standpoint of how the land was ripped away. So I'm going to keep highlighting that 16 million that we had at 1910. It took all the way to about 1973 for it to get down, because currently we're around 5 million, maybe a little less now. I haven't looked at the numbers very recently, but we went from 16 million of farmable land that our community collectively owned, and we're down to less than 5 million as of today. And so when people see those numbers or hear them at the long, the context that we have in current times, there's an assumption that there's something wrong with us on how our ancestors understood land ownership coming out of enslavement, and now today we don't understand the importance of it. That is not the case. It is. I will keep reiterating. It has been a consistent effort. I'll give it one example, and I'll go to the next cut. One example in my hometown. I remember talking to some of the deacons at my home church that I grew up in, and they knew of an older lady. She had been a nanny to this one family for a lot of years, and basically breastfed all this white guy's children or whatever. They loved her so the guy gave her a big portion of the estate, but she was always illiterate. They literally just went down and had her sign papers as with the laws. To Adeline's point, with the legalities of the law, they legally took the land back. And the deacon took me around and showed me how much land it was. I'm in a 3-stop rural town, but he said this lady actually owned. He still remembers it. He remembers how much she had and how they would go visit her or whatever, because she was older at this time. But he had given all that land, and it was supposed to go to her actual heirs, because he had given her all his land. He just gave her a big portion of the land because of how much he loved her and how she raised his kids. And they literally just, with a swipe of a pen, took her advantage of her ignorance, and nobody will ever see that land again that looks like us. That's just one example that I recall to the examples that you talk about. But I want to go one other place before we actually get to your documentary, if you will, Adam. And this is, again, to put more context on. You've heard me say this plenty of times, Latrice, as well as you, Adam. We actually disrespect our ancestors with the way we understand history. And so this clip right here, I think, will speak to it. I think this sister has a lot right, but I actually, in my opinion, want to speak to what I feel like she gets wrong. But in current times, because everything is via the internet, you could do a quick clip like this and everybody just shakes their head yes, because it all sounds logical. You have to know the actual history before you just ride with any information that you're getting via the internet. And this is, again, I should know this sister because I've seen her on other stuff. So forgive me for not giving credits today. I put these clips together quickly, and I'm not gonna be able to give the credits like I should. So forgive me for that, for anybody that sees this and I don't give out the credits. But again, I'll matter of fact, Adam, I'll let you start and just get your response. You can agree or disagree, but I'll definitely point out what I love and what issues I see with this actual clip.
We didn't care about integrating. We didn't want to integrate. That's what people don't get if they don't know history. We never asked for integration. We just wanted equal rights because you were taking our tax money. That's all they were asking for. They gave you that shit to shut you up. You see what I'm saying? Oh, we gonna give you, we didn't ask for civil rights. We asked for equal because you was taking our taxes. And then we didn't understand the psychology behind what they've done to us to say, in order to be better, white people got to validate us, because they didn't see black people exodus taking money out their neighborhoods the way they did. So when we integrated, all the schools went away, the doctor's office went away. Remember, we couldn't go to these stuff, so we had our own doctor's office, our own shoemakers, it went away because the psychology of, if this white person takes my money, I'm validated. Remember the scene in what was the movie, the show Misha Green wrote on Lovecraft Country? Yeah. Remember the Green Book scene where they went to the restaurant and they realized they had probably unalived the white woman and paint over the burn spots of the restaurant. And he was like, no, our money just as good. They're going to take our money. That was their thought process. You were making these people take your money who didn't even want to deal with you for validation.
Adeline, your thoughts? Like I say, I agree with some parts. I disagree with a lot. I'll say that personally, but of course, it's up to you, your thoughts.
Yeah, what I see out of that is that there was a moment in African American history, or rather United States history, where black people were at a crossroads. And a crossroads, we can argue, is probably on the civil rights angle and as well as the economic angle. And it was a sense of saying, is this an either or dichotomy? Should we choose survival mechanisms based on how the current economic structure is infused, or rather it's better to assimilate and become part of the whole, the status quo? And when you're at the bottom and you're marginalized and you're out there, everything is up for everything is part of the solutions in order to move up. I mean, the sense of economic mobility instead of political mobility. So, obviously we know what the turn of history has taken us, and I can see in that clip it was a sense of, do we really want to integrate with quote unquote the enemy, or the quote unquote the ones who are oppressing us, or is it better that we just separate ourselves and then create our own economic, the Tulsa model, and see if that's sustainable for us, for future generations? So yeah, so I can see the nuance in that regard, in the sense of saying, yeah, we are having to ask this fundamental question about what really is going to help better the African American community as a whole.
Fair enough. Latrice, any thoughts on that clip?
I think she simplifies it too much because it's much more gray than black and white. I think, well, I know that what folks wanted was access to equal resources, and they didn't want to be denied access to those things because of their race. So maybe not necessarily were they seeking social integration, but they wanted, because separate but equal was unequal as it got. And so I think that her simplification of it does a disservice, because of all the things that were going on within the Black community. This topic is infrastructural violence against the Black community, and there was a lot of that, and it showed up in a lot of different ways: environmental injustice, over policing, all of those things. And so I think that we have to get away from oversimplification of our history. But we live in a microwave society right now, where we want information, we want it instantly, but we have to somehow develop the curiosity to dig deeper and understand a little more.
I love the term you use, infrastructural violence. I love that term. I'm going to give the context. And this is not saying that lady is wrong. I agree 1,000% that she's simplifying. So let me say that. What I always say is, at the end of the day, when you get a little more information, you can tell a better story, right? If we were, all three of us right now, we're archaeologists, right? And we found a few dinosaur bones, and we've found enough, we might come up with say, hey, the dinosaur looks like this. But if somebody else found more bones, they would have a more accurate look of what that dinosaur looks like. I'm using that analogy on purpose because it is a grave disservice for us, and we do it quite often in 2025, to as African Americans not learn the actual goals of the civil rights movement. Because in your 12 years of schooling, most of us went to public school, you're going to learn that it was about civil rights and what happened, and because you have a law that was a civil rights law. So I can understand why that context is given. But what the sister was absolutely right about, it was about equal protection. So now I want to give you the mindset of our ancestors and what equal protection looks like, which was the number one goal, not civil rights, even though that's how we're taught in 12 years of schooling. When equal protection is the actual goal, which it was at all times, it means when I build something, and if you destroy it, take it, I can go to the court system and receive some level of recompense. So just like I gave the example of them slickly taking the land because she was ignorant, a family couldn't fight that when there was no equal protection of the law. So if you were watching from the beginning, and I highlighted, we had 16 million acres of farmable land as a collective in 1910. And from that, for the next 60 years, that went down to 5 million to even less today. The reason that it went down is because before the 1968 Equal Protection Act, every insidious way that Adeline mentioned for how land was taken legally under the rules, there was no recompense. So the reason I'm being very specific on how it is so disrespectful to think that because this is what we say now. We found out about the tussles. We found out about those different thriving areas that were presented in the intro of this show. We thrive about those, and we romanticize and say, hey, our community had all these thriving places. And now there is a narrative by some of our thought leaders from the last 20, 30 years that some of them I respect, but they have this part wrong. From some of our thought leaders that go as far as to suggest our ancestors, upon the integration, thought the white man's ice was colder. And so we actually believe that they had these, during segregation, had these thriving Black communities. And once integration came, they decided, oh, we like their stuff better. And that's what happened. No, all of the destruction that you saw in the first video happened to those locations. All of the infrastructural violence that Latrice talked about happened. And this also happened. Here's the reality of those Black enclaves. They represented about 2 to 3% of our entire Black population. So here's what was happening during the separate but equal, as she just mentioned, what was happening during that period. What was happening was 75% of in the 1940s of our African American community was surviving off one meal a day. 75% of our community was not in Black enclaves with their own hospitals and their own things like the late. Again, I'm just keeping it real, not to go at her, but to kill this narrative that our ancestors somehow thought the white man's ice was colder. So here's another reality. When we had the HBCUs pumping out doctors, we had our African American successful people going into being doctors for our community who needed, but the average doctor was 20 miles away. Inside of the South, where the majority of us were, 20 miles away on average, even with the HBCUs pumping them out. And so the reason that matters is because without equal protection, again, the sister was right. That was the goal. That meant your taxpayer's dollar meant you could get sick and have a situation where you actually need to go to the hospital, and the hospital that is for the public and paid for with your taxes, you can't go in it. And you're making a house call to an HBCU doctor that's trying to get to you in a horse or get to you in a car 20 miles away and hoping you don't die. That was the reality for our ancestors. The goal was equal protection so that when we built up a Black Wall Street, when we built up a Durham, North Carolina, that it couldn't be taken and destroyed without recompense. That was the goal. Stop saying that our Black people thought the white man's ice was colder. Now, I'll be very fair to what I'm saying, and we'll get our brother Brandon on here with us. But I'll be very fair to what I'm saying. If you got 75% of our people living off one meal a day, and the majority of a lot of people moved into sharecropping prior to World War II, then you do have this aspect of a lot of Black people never seeing the Black Wall Streets. They never experienced that. So in that sense, there would be little side hustles and little things that were put together. And so not being a part of industry is why our community say, oh, well, when we integrated and now have access to these things, yeah, there were Black people who say, well, the white person does stuff better than us, because we had a whole community that was at zero for 246 years. So for those who never had the ability to leave the area, yeah, there were Black people who thought, oh, the white man does stuff better. I'm not denying that psychology does not exist, but it is terrible to think that our ancestors who were pushing the movement for equal protection so brilliantly and smartly actually got integrated and wanted to leave their community. Last thing I'll say, and I'll bring our brother Brandon on, is Martin Luther King is on video talking about banking Black. That was his initiative in Memphis. Don't tell me that his goal was to integrate socially with white people while he's saying go to Black banks, go to Black insurance company, keep your money with us. It wasn't to integrate and socially integrate. It was, if we are integrated, then they cannot continue to treat us like second-class citizens. That was the goal. I got on my soapbox. Forgive me. Let me get my brother Brandon. Matter of fact, let's do it like this and then bring the brother on.
Brandon Fulton is charged with aggravated cruelty to animals. Animal Services finding 4 horses dead on his property and 5 others in heartbreaking conditions.
I'm not a criminal. So I'm like, but once I get into the court system with the horses, it's like, damn, they're trying to make me like I'm a criminal. This agency for 10 years have put cases on me, and they all got dismissed. I was on house arrest for 6 months with an ankle bracelet and had an $80,000 bond.
I don't understand why he was arrested.
It should be real simple. Case dismissed, return property. If I was what they said I was, then why you didn't prosecute me? That's the question I want the world to see.
With my lawyer hat on, I would say, hey, that I think he might be entitled to the return of his property. Was the taking constitutional? Your property rights cannot be taken without due process of law.
I enjoy his fight. I think it's the right fight because somebody has to stand for the black farmer. Somebody got to stand for the black cowboy.
He was already DJing in New York, but when he came to school, he came prepared to DJ in Atlanta.
Then he transitioned from Brat over to Jaquan.
I think horses became purpose. I think horses became passion. And it's hard to walk away from purpose.
I'm a horseman till the casket drop. I plan on being buried right here.
Buy land, they can't make any more.
When you got land, you're in a different game. The United States of America can print money all day, but they can't make no more land.
Keeping something natural is conserving.
If we use everything up and don't give it back, the generation to come won't have it. You know, we're losing bodies of water, doing deforestation for the enjoyment of entertainment and living as the population is growing.
Eminent domain is the power of an entity, usually government, to acquire private property and put it to a public use.
If we can't come to a negotiation or agreement, the government has the right to go in and say, hey, we're doing this for the health and safety of our residents, and then you won't get anything. So you can play hardball all day, but at the end of the day, that's usually the case.
Just looking at it from, the past 100, 150 years, black land ownership has declined significantly.
Land ownership should always be on our radar.
When you got property on a major thoroughfare, then you are targeted because it's in the way of progress. And that's what Brandon represents to that county. He's in the way of progress.
I got offered $3 million for this property twice, and I turned it down. It's got to be about the horses on this land. Got to. I can't give up my dream for their dream.
Powerful trailer for the upcoming documentary of my brother Adeline Gasana featuring Brandon Fulton himself. How you doing, Branu? Thank you for being with us. I hope I said your name correctly.
Yes, you did.
You actually might be on mute, so I don't know if you can see that on your side of it. Try to hit the mute button, maybe. I think I might hear you now.
Can you hear me?
All right, you coming through loud and clear, brother. But yeah, you are the star of Adeline's documentary. But thank you for being with us, brother. How you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Adeline, you want to jump in on that?
Brandon's story is it was as unique as it got. He is a brother who's got everything, all the cards stacked against him. Coming this January is 10 years since he owned that property. And he took all the bows and arrows that was given him, and he's still at it. He's still fighting it. And what's very unique about Brandon's story in the framework of this conversation we're having is that he's really juxtaposed between a yesteryear move to a future tense move, and where the rural meets the urban, and what direction is this all going? And so we use this term in urban renewal gentrification as progress. Everything's always in the context of progress. We're only here to improve. We're only here to grow. But what does all that mean? What does all that look like? Is growth another mixed-use development? Is growth more subdivisions? Is growth, more cars and more traffic, more larger roads right now? And here's a guy like Brandon who's saying no to all that. There's a different type of understanding of what we can go as a community, and community engagement.
No, absolutely. You're talking about maintaining what we already have, since this brother has been smart enough to accrue that amount of land. Like you said, Brandon, you were offered in that documentary several billions of dollars, and you've been cases been put on you. And something that we forgot to mention in setting up the show was the role of eminent domain as well, the role that it's played in taking us from 16 million down to, I think, 3 to 5 million formable land that we have now. So I definitely don't want to do a session about the documentary because I plan to show up on the red carpet with my lady for the premiere on September the 18th. I hope I got that right. And so we'll definitely share that information as well. But Brandon, we really just want you to take part in this conversation because I think the bigger picture is not only are you the example of something our community should be doing for all the reasons that Adeline already laid out, but I'm just curious at your thoughts, because quite often most people are unaware of how much land we had in the past. So I'm just impressed by you actually, not only getting the land, but also, continuing to fight and maintain it, even under the very difficult idea of eminent domain, because typically they just take your land. So any thoughts, brother? But again, just thank you for, in a sense, fighting this fight. But I wanted to get you out there before people come see the documentary.
All right.
You're in and out again, brother.
Following y'all is
sound like you're out there on your land, but so it might have a little bad connection possibly. I can hear you every other word, maybe.
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
So I'm just following y'all lead. I mean, do you just want me to speak, or you want to ask me questions? And
yeah, just your thoughts about, like, let me ask you this. Here's a question. Here's a question for you. So a question. It was a number of years ago that you acquired this land, and obviously the documentary highlights that this has become your passion. What was your bigger and broader thought in reference to, I know you didn't expect to have this come to you, right? You got the land, you decided to put the horses on it, and you didn't know that this attempt would even come at you. But I would assume it's not just personal to you. There's a bigger picture, as being an African-American farmer specifically. Just so any thoughts in relations to the big picture for anybody out there listening, even not just your story, but from a big picture standpoint, what are your thoughts about it from a big picture standpoint?
And let me know if I'm not answering the question correctly.
It's whatever you think, brother.
When I got the land, I had no idea government and politics I never knew it was like this. My perspective on government and land ownership was just, you buy it, you respect it, and you enjoy life, and you enjoy, what you enjoy to do on your land. I didn't know it would, as much educated enough to know what history said, right? But I'm in modern times, so I'm not thinking that vibe still exists. And it's not a color thing, right? It's not of this journey I've been on here made me realize more than anything, it's not really a color thing. Race can play into it, but it's not always, because most of the people that was in front of me were brown. You know what I'm saying? The police that arrest me, the judges, the Fulton County manager when I would go into the courtroom, with prosecutors, with City of South Fulton. So for me, it taught me that it's a spiritual thing. It's about haves and have-nots. And unfortunately, people may not enjoy someone who, on society's checklist, may not have the 550 or the 600 SL Benz, the Range Rover, the Ferrari, and see me, and I'm happy with just the land. I'm happy just riding, simple, living life. And I think, from what I experienced, I think it's more so like I should have that and he shouldn't. I'm on paper, I'm classified to be qualified to have that, based on your title or whatever the case may be. And I was very surprised in the actions of the government, the police officers, how it operates, how they put us all in a box, as criminals. Like, to them, Fulton County, I'm a criminal. These are the words that come out their mouth. And it's like, wow, criminal. Because I'm pursuing
happiness the way I desire it for me, and supposed to be the land of the free. I didn't steal the land. I didn't squat on the land. I purchased the land. I paid taxes on the land. I'm putting cattle on the land. And by the way, are you taking your wife to Longhorn tonight? So what I'm saying is, you'll glorify that in Longhorn. You go in there, you see all the Western stuff sitting at the table, but then you look at me as a threat because I'm the one that's preparing the steak for you, right? Because is it not supposed to be me? Is it supposed to be what's his name from Yellowstone? John Dutton? Is it supposed to be a man of that? And again, it's not a race thing, but am I not those guys in those ranches, King Ranch, all those big ranches in Texas, they have years and years and years of generational improvement. I'm the first person, one man. I don't have a brother, I don't have a daddy, I don't have a grandfather out here. It's just me. So it's going to be a little bit different how I pursue the land and make it into the bigger vision. And because you are a college graduate with a master's degree, I would quite believe that you would think so. But I had to realize most of them are just turnkey people. When they go to the dealership, the car is already made. They just sign, wire the money. When they're in the courtroom, the chambers is already designed. The floor is laid. They're not there when the people who are using their bare hands is building it. The mansion is already done. It's turnkey. They may stand in front of it while it's getting framed, but they're not out there every day. And when it's a budget, the progress can keep moving faster, right? But when you day to day in it, how many people would still believe they can doing it without having a budget, right? And that would be me. Like, I went into it believing it from my heart and believing that I am the currency. My healthy limbs, my state of mind, that I could achieve it. I'm the nucleus. I will attract. I am money, meaning I'm not the paper, but I am the currency. So I will attract everything that I need to get where I need to get. I may not get there fast. I may get there with a couple of piles of dirt sitting around for 6 or 7 months because I don't have the machine. But if you driving by, right, and you peeking over and you looking and you calling and you pulling in the gate, police officer, whoever, while you here, ask me, do I need help? Don't come here to judge, to belittle me, right? Because you don't know what it's like. The precinct is already built. The jail is already built. The walkie-talkie is already made. Everything that most people have in modern day is already made. So when you're building something from your bare hands, land, it is not easy. And I think it causes a lot of jealousy, unfortunately. And it's no mansion over here. I don't have the most fanciest horses and a big old mansion and big old pool.
Like you said, you're starting from scratch.
I'm starting from scratch. So what is there to hate on? You
Let
just
me
hating on my dedication?
Let me jump in here, and Latrice just wanted to hear some of your thoughts because one of the first things you said in this conversation, and I didn't think about it until he said it. He's in Atlanta, Fulton County, and so until he says
the correction, my thought is the city of South Fulton.
Okay, my bad.
So he bought the property in unincorporated Fulton County. This is outside of Atlanta, and it became a city a year after he bought the property.
Okay, got it. Okay, so So with that said, as we were just talking about the history of how often our property or our farmland was taken due to eminent domain for brand new in 2025, he's pointing out, he's like, man, I thought it was a race thing, but when I show up in that court, everybody who looks like me is the ones that are saying I should not own this land. That is something that is worthy of discussing in current times, and I have to respect his personal position. While we were setting up the context of what happens to us, this is what the city does. But to his point, here in Atlanta, that city looks like you. So that's something to think about. Any thoughts on that, Latrice?
So I don't have a poker face, so I'm sure you saw my face. Those are employees. If it's a judge, he was voted in, but he still has to follow the law. And many of these laws around eminent domain were built around Black disposition of their property. And so while it's Black people who are executing their duties, they don't hold the power necessarily to make the decision. Um, and so we do have to look back at the history of eminent domain and how it has dispossessed Black folks of their property for decades. And if you look at the stats, Black people are significant. There's a significantly higher rate of Black people, of eminent domain being used against Black people than white people. And the fact, and you spoke of, it's one person, you're trying to build this on your own. You don't have that generational wealth. It's a reason why you don't have that generational wealth. When we started this conversation, Montoya was talking about the millions of acres of land that we had that was essentially stolen from us to pad someone else's bank account to pass down to their descendants or their descendants. And so what's happening now, there's another family in Hancock County, Georgia, that's fighting to keep their land from being taken for a railroad that's been in business for over 130 years, owned by white people. And so it absolutely has to do with race. It may not seem that way when you're dealing with the legal system and the courts because of the faces of the employees. But if you look at the power behind who's pushing to take your property, the faces likely won't look like yours and mine.
When we chop in, Adeline.
Yeah, I just want to say something really quick. Again, going back to the context. Where he lives on the corner of Butler Road and Camp Creek Parkway, South Fulton is considered a bedroom community. A lot of people live in South Fulton, but they work in the city of Atlanta. So they make the long commute into the city every day. He's on very prime real estate, and his neighbors are pretty much in the upper middle class. These are people with $600,000, $800,000 homes. And what's interesting is that most of the complaints he's getting is directly from his neighbors as well, in the sense of he doesn't fit the community model. He doesn't fit what we're trying to do. It's too country. It's a lot of other things on a long laundry list of things that they complain about Brandon for. And it's in this context that he's constantly having to fight this class struggle, in the sense of who has the money, who has the power, and who has respect, which bleeds into the political aspect. And the city of South Fulton is 96-97% Black. So across the board, every leadership body is of African American descent. So I just want to add that context.
No, I'm glad you did, and Brandon, I'll let you go. And so it brings to the table, and you have to, if you're going to be in the quote unquote Atlanta area, the long history of the, in a sense, in the Black community, the difference between, in a sense, the upper class and the lower class. That has been a long time part of what happens in Atlanta. So I'm not surprised. I didn't know those details until you just mentioned them, Adeline, but it actually fits, unfortunately, into the context of a long history where those Blacks who have versus who do not have been at odds. So it sounds like it's some of that history as a part of this too. So again, we got to talk about it as is, but go ahead, Brandon.
Brandon, you there?
You actually muted yourself again, maybe, possibly.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
When I go to Fulton County and I go to the Chastain Park area, correct? That's in Atlanta. It's in Fulton County. They got $1 million plus homes. And and I don't know if you can put this on your screen, but I could text it to Adeline. Literally across the street from the $1 million plus homes is a riding arena. Chastain Park Equestrian Center is literally, it's like walking across the street. $1 million home, you walk across the street, you're in the riding arena. Now, why is that? Because those people who are on the political board in that area, the councilman and whoever else controls that part of Fulton County, they want the bedroom and they also want the activities where the kids in that neighborhood can mingle amongst each other and they don't have to leave their area. When they come home after school, they can walk down the block and go swimming. walk down the block and play golf, and meet the other children and the housewives and the husbands in the neighborhood. It's the mindset of the people in South Fulton, because they don't have the mindset of, because I'm not trying to make friends, I'm just keep it real. Most of us, we get in position and we never been in position. So once we get in position, we just power playing, right? But if you're trying to be like the predominant neighborhoods, then just look at them, model them, right? I don't see nobody else in my neighborhood willing or has the dedication proven that want to put something that the community can benefit from. Not just me. It's a lot of kids that want to ride, right? Why do they have to go to Alpharetta, Cobb County, Villa Rica, Covington? Why you don't have it in your own neighborhood?
Let me ask a question just to get some understanding. So, in this sense, are you suggesting, and it's fair enough, again, you're living this out, I just want to understand you better. So, do you think the people in your neighborhood don't want to model it? Is that what you? I'm just trying to make some understanding what you're suggesting. I want to understand you.
I don't know what they want, but
Oh, you're going in and out again, brother. Can't hear you right now. Sorry.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I said, for whatever reason, our people, when we have a problem, we run to Facebook, and for 10 or 15 minutes, it's an issue on our heart, and then we back to doing what we're doing. We don't implement. We don't show and prove our people, right? We're not implementing from start to finish for something to be built. We're followers, right? That's all we do. We follow trends. We don't create things for our neighborhood. Every predominant neighborhood has an equestrian facility across the United States of America, from California to Maryland. If nobody believes me, they can Google.
Let me ask you a question. Right. So obviously, like you said, I remember you said you went into this thing looking to buy land and you didn't think any of this could happen, right? As long as you bought your land, you would be allowed to work it. So have you had an opportunity locally to discuss your area becoming, if you're saying these different neighborhoods have these equestrian things?
Yeah.
And so have you had a chance to discuss that as an option, and has that option been shut down? I'm just trying to understand.
Well, for me, I'm not going to beg nobody, right? Because you clearly see me. I live on a corner. They see me every day. If I haven't proven to you that I'm serious about a horses being here for 10 years, one man, and everything I've been through, what else can prove to you that I'm dedicated to this vision? Only thing I'm lacking is resources, extra labor, funding. I don't need nobody to give me money. I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm not asking about getting money from the government. I'm just saying, has there ever, like when you say that to me, here's my thought. My thought is, when you say, hey, this will build up the community, this is this, I'm wondering, have you considered having dialogue to present that picture to those neighbors? And I was curious, if you've done it, what did those neighbors say? That's what I'm trying to understand, how your neighbors reacting.
That's what I was telling you. Yeah, that's what I was saying. They're Facebook people, meaning they're looking at face like, yeah, we're all behind you. Yeah. They're not implementing. Most of our people are taught, right? We'll say, yeah, and won't pick up a shovel, right?
So you think the reality is they say they're with you, and then everything that you're experiencing is what they're really doing? I'm just trying to understand if your neighbors are with you, are they the ones also making the calls to push you out? I'm just trying to understand what's happening.
I don't know if they're with me or not, but my gate is open. I'm a public figure, right? If you could go on TikTok when you seen a video of this trailer and put all your comments, not one person dropped off a piece of wood yet. Not that I need them to. What I'm saying is that we don't show and prove. We talk a good game on internet, but we don't show and prove, right? Other people, when it's a problem, they show up with numbers and they activate. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I respect your relative experience. So I can't disagree with you on your relative experience. But I think our community
let's make this example.
A lot of examples of our community implementing. I can give you a lot of examples, but that doesn't mean it's right for what you're going through. But there's a lot of examples of our people implementing. There's a lot of them.
I don't know. What I'm saying is in the equestrian world. Let's give you an example.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. I'm not trying to speak on your world.
Right. I'm not talking about the others. I'm talking about in the equestrian world. When Beyonce comes for a concert, do we not go out in numbers?
Absolutely. I worked that concert, so yeah, absolutely.
Did you not put on a cowboy hat and everything's
Absolutely.
yeehaw?
Okay.
Entertainment. But what is it really embracing? Is the cowboy really on stage dancing, or is he in the field? That's what I'm saying. We follow entertainment. We line dancing. The whole line dance is behind the whole trail riding. It's something that real riders do. It becomes a party. If it's a party, we there. If it incorporates music and dancing, we're there. When it requires sweat, we're not there. Let's keep it
Yeah,
100.
I think all cultures do entertainment that way. So that's why I don't think I see it as a difference. I'm just being honest
No,
about my perspective.
Mexican.
Like I work in the concert area. So if it, if it was another cowboy person, all those people fill up that same arena like they did for Beyonce. I'm just saying that's my real life experience.
But
it
guess
ain't
what?
the same people.
They have ranches. They have ranches. Whether it's Luke Bryant or it's the Hispanic guys, they have ranches. They do this. They embrace the culture for real, not just for one person singing a few songs. That's factual. Like, let's be real. How many people that go to those concerts are really ranch owners that really live the life every day?
I'm adding any thoughts, like, because for me it's like I know that like I don't think there's a large community here in the South, for example, of people that are in the farming or ranching outside of the history of it being passed down generationally. And so those that have had the generation to have passed it down to their children, those are the current owners and the people who are still doing it, having a long history. I don't know that any culture of any race wants to go into farming or into what you're doing brand new without any history. I 1000% respect you doing it. I just don't know if I consider it an indictment to a group of people who unfortunately lost most of their farmland, and we don't have the black cowboys in abundance like we used to have 50 to 60 years ago. So I'm just saying, when you don't have that, I don't know if I consider that an indictment to the newer generation who's not willing to do what you do. I don't know if I consider that an indictment. Go ahead.
And short of pointing fingers and just kind of putting people on the spot as far as what their roles are, as far as whether they embrace one culture or one lifestyle over another. What's unique about Brandon Fulton's story is that he's really South Fulton is almost 60% AG1 land, agricultural land. This is quiet areas far from the metropolis. You have horse farms, one of which is his. You have rural farmers, or what we call urban farmers, that are really living this as a full-on profession. And what's interesting is what the blowback Brandon's getting is that what is the embrace? Is this going to be a lifestyle question, or this is going to be a class? Urban development. We have a vision on where this future city is going, where this future region is going, and he's caught right in the middle of that. And so he's trying to open a lending hand on those who were willing to receive that message and that focus. While all this stuff is happening fast, policies being happened, and then he's also dealing with some of these legal issues, which we talked about at the top of this. Is that sometimes the legal maneuvers in how can acquire and take land, confiscate land, even confiscate his own property. 7 horses, which was confiscated for him when he was arrested and never returned to him, and now he has a federal lawsuit against Fulton County.
Wow.
So these are the challenges.
Can I ask you a quick question, Adam? Because like you said, there's a big 60% of the community embraces this type of lifestyle. Have maybe it's where he's sitting, have we been able to connect with those who embrace this lifestyle, and has there been any response or support from those that actually embrace this lifestyle? I don't know. I'm just curious.
I think it's less of embracing and of his lifestyle specifically, because he's just a unique individual. I mean, this guy lives off the grid.
Okay.
Like me and you, and Latrice, I would think that we go to bed to queen size beds with satin sheets. He doesn't. Right. He is off the grid. He lives with on the land, and he works it every day, sun up to sundown. He really has champions in the sense of what he's fighting for.
Okay.
He's fighting for self-determination. He's on his land. He wants to build his dream ranch. Why is there roadblock? Why are people stopping? Why are people slowing him down? And that's really where the real support is. And that's what we saw overwhelmingly.
Right.
Let
Yeah.
me say this.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother. Please.
So, two political people in city of South Fulton did their campaign. Guess where?
Enon Ranch.
Enon Ranch.
Okay.
Two political leaders
All
in
right.
South Fulton did their campaign at Enon Ranch. Why would you do it at a ranch? You don't mess with ranches. Why you ain't do it at an event center or Tower Theater or Southwest South Fulton art thing where they do everything else? Why you ain't do it where the courthouse is? Because they don't really have a courthouse. They have a event hall that they keep court in. Why would they do it at a ranch? I think because of the aesthetics of the ranch. But that didn't happen overnight, right? Why should this block change and it's all AG1? Why should us, the original people who are on this block, change? Because other people want to come here and put townhouses. Like we already stamped. The block is AG1.
Now, are those
right?
are those politicians backing you that actually did it there? Just curious. I'm just curious. Is the
I
connection?
don't have no static with them, but I know why they did it there because it's already aesthetically pleasing. If mine was aesthetically pleasing, they probably would have did it with me, right? But we have to remember, are we trying to progress? That means start from the ground and build something up for the future. Or are we just blocking? Because if it's about progress, then Enon Ranch is just start off and come out the sky looking beautiful.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No, it didn't. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm saying it, and then when it comes to our people, right? Not to get on the race, but I can relate to the little boy who daddy been in jail. I can relate to the single home mother. Right? I could be therapeutic to the mind. It don't have to be about ADHD. I could relate better than Miss Rebecca, who can't relate to my community. And I could do it I could use the horse as an instrumental too. I even offer them let's do it as a park and recreation thing. Where now when they got to do community service, they come here, clean the stalls. Let's do it as a unit. You know what I'm saying?
So they have started doing some of it. Is that not what I'm following? That they clean the stalls. That's been a part of the county's. I'm just making sure I'm understanding what you mean.
No. I said
okay.
I'm saying this is my vision for the land.
Okay. This is your vision. Okay. I'm hearing it. I heard as though it's already.
Yeah, it's the vision for the land that we could have local kids who can't afford horses. I'm willing to let them have my horse and utilize it here if they do the duties to maintain it. Now we got community engagement from kids from Camelton Road, from Old National, and from my block, which has the middle class, where now the middle class kid could meet the kid that live on Old National or on Camelton Road, who's not as fortunate. We all 5 minutes away, and now we could use the horse as an instrumental tool to show you that it ain't about what your mama drive or what your daddy drive. In front of the horse, we all one. It's about trust, right? And then we could bridge the gap from the jealousy or kids feeling like now they're like, oh, that's my friend. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't look down at me because my sneakers come from Walmart. I remember when I was in brand new program and we rode the horse together, right? So it could win for everything. I even tell them like when the sheriff runs, we could do a sheriff and cop thing here. I wanted to make it community engagement. I don't just want to walk around like with a belt buckle. Like that ain't who I am. I'm just trying to create something that I wish I had access to when I lived in Brooklyn. A place I could easily get to and get that professionalism that I can go to the next level if I want to be a jockey or a barrel racer. And when I ride the streets, I see the reaction at the kids at the local.
Right. I love it.
Right. I see when they go by on a school bus and they screaming out the window.
I love it. Let me jump into Adlin real quick because we're hitting the hour. So you have a vision, brother. That's what I definitely see and respect. And I'm assuming that's part of what you're hoping to accomplish with this documentary. Not only share what he's been through, but hopefully share that vision. Because if that gets out, maybe we can get some congruency between what he's dealing with and those in leadership in Fulton County. Because it sounds like without any level of congruency, that is going to, at least from what I can tell right now, it seems like this is going to continue. And I don't think we want that to happen. So is that the goal of this, Adlin, or what's your goal?
Yes to that, but not specific. We didn't do a document specifically to address the political leaders. We want this to be a all-encompassing documentary, reach a larger audience. And while we do highlight the struggles of Brandon, going back to our earlier conversation on this podcast, was that this wasn't in a vacuum. And so part of it is that he is dealing with the unprecedented issue of gentrification. They're building all around him. So he's on the corner of Button Road and Camp Creek, and they're building all around him. The eminent domain issue specifically for him is that they want to expand Button Road. I don't know if Latrice and Matoya, if you've ever been in this area, but my Button Road is a one-lane road that goes north and south, and there's a light at the corner of it, of Camp Creek Parkway and Button Road, which is considered one of the most dangerous intersections in Georgia. They want to expand it for the safety of it, and including the bridge. But in order to do that, they have to cut into Brandon's property with 11 feet into it. And so one of the challenges is, are they going to give him just compensation? Is there a negotiation at the table? Clearly, there's legal ramifications that come with that. So we highlight all of that. And then there's also another conspicuous thing of the 2035 project, which is a document we found within Fulton County, which says that there was already an intention to do something on that corner, that lot. Because the Camp Creek actually flows into his property.
Okay.
So he's really on prime real estate. There, when I cannot imagine developers driving through city of South Fulton and all around it and just salivating on where to build next. The next mixed use development, the next townhouses, subdivision, the next plazas. And so he's right there where they want to. So he there's a scope on him. He has a red mark. And that's the one thing that we want to highlight is that there's a legal approach to acquiring the land from him. And then there's that the idea of what is economic urban development progress, in which he's just caught in the middle and he has to deal with that every day.
Wow. Nah, man, I can't wait to see this documentary. Looking forward. Again, I'll be there on September 18th. Matter of fact, give out anybody that just joined, tell them how they can actually, and I'll actually type it and put it in on the screen here. What's the website or whatever to be able to get tickets. Let me put that out there for you.
Okay. The website is bernu.event.
One second, give me 1 second so I can type it. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Let me type a new one here. I'm trying to do a banner. Give me a second. Still learning some of this. I done did it before.
Yeah,
I got it.
Yeah, I try to check.
All right, spell it for me. I'm gonna put it on the screen for everybody.
Bernu, BRANNU dot eventbrite.com.
All right. So if you want to hear more of Brandon Fulton's or Bernu's story, I'm definitely about to put the website across the bottom here. Yes. So go to brandneweventbrite.com. I already got my tickets. It's a red carpet event. Anything else you want to say about the actual event? Because me and my lady, we're going to show up sharp, brother, support it.
Yeah, appreciate it. No, thank you. Yeah, it is. This is the complete rollout. Me and my producer, Julie Griggs, we were at this for two and a half years, producing it and following his story. We made sure we called Brandon in all events, all seasons, excuse me, winter, fall, summer, spring, and really to get the rawness of his story. And this is the first time the whole world can see it. Again, it's Metro Atlanta, of course. That world is Metro Atlanta, but this is the beginning of the rollout. And it, like I said, it's a thought-provoking piece. It really talks on the context of a lot of the issues that we're dealing with in our culture and our society. And he's just symbolic to that. And I think he lends it his voice throughout the whole piece. And with all of the issues that he's been dealing with the last 10 years, we believe, my team believes that Brandon really never had his side of the story, his say in it. And so we think that this documentary is that moment.
Love it. I love it, man. I love your vision, Brandon. Brandon, if you're still on here.
Yeah, I'm still here. I was just trying to.
Super cool. No problem. I just want to check. Yeah, I just want to tell you personally, I love your vision. We're at a point now what I call for the mental dialogue perspective. This is extra innings. And so the three of you can choose to stay if you like, because I'm going to play one last clip and just get a response, or I'll give a response if y'all choose not to stay. But at the end of the day, man, we're going to be at the viewing, Brandon, supporting you, brother. And I love your vision. But yeah, if you want to say, something real quick before I play this last clip, please do. But this last clip is y'all staying on by choice.
I'll let Adam say it.
Yep.
I'll let Adam say it.
Okay, no doubt. So let's do this. Let's play this clip. Or did you have something, Adam? Did you want to say?
No, I didn't say that. Cool. I wanted to throw the question. Okay.
Yep. Now this is just a clip that we're all going to respond to close out the show. This is just something kind of a thing. I call it extra innings, where we stay on just a little longer than an hour. All right. So this is actually, just to give some context, this is we have, you see behind my head, the Mental Dialogue Community Club. Adeline and Latrice are both members, but we do have platinum level and black level memberships. And so we actually do about 6 to 8 talks for our business leaders. And this is actually a cut that comes from one of our black level conversations talking about what we as African Americans should do with land. So I think it's just something that a good way to close out today's conversation, to just give y'all seeds to think about. If you are out there watching and see land ownership as important, here are some things that we must think about. Sometimes we do have, some of us do have land, we're not facing what Brandon's facing, but we're not always doing everything that we should. So this comes from one of our platinum level members, Billy Agnew, and it's just the sound. So if we'll listen to this sound, and I'll get y'all responses, and we'll close out the show.
We are not properly understanding how to scale the assets that we have. Let me tell you something, my people. It makes no sense to have assets, right, that you're not going to try to grow over the course of time, because what's going to happen is as you get into the fourth quarter of your life, whether you have a business or whether you have land or whether you have properties, whatever it is, if you're not scaling those things, if they're not producing income, if they're not producing revenue, if they're not producing cash flow, ultimately what happens is they become a cost center for you. They become a headache for you. They become a liability for you. So by the time you get in the fourth quarter, if you got 20, 40, 80, 60, 100 acres of land, if all you're doing is paying taxes on that land, there's nothing coming out of that land, there's nothing going on that land, then essentially what's going to happen is when you get into that time where you're making less money and you're commanding less money because you're getting older and it's harder to make money, that is going to be a cost center to you, and it's going to be a headache for you, liability, and you're going to want to liquidate it. And when you liquidate an asset, it goes back into the box and we move in the opposite direction. And if you only have if that's the only option you have, now like I said, there's no problem with liquidating. You can sell whatever you want to sell. I'm not saying selling is a bad thing. Ultimately, we all want to sell for the highest price at the end of the day. But if we're looking to hold an asset that we want to keep in our family and pass down from generation to generation and have that asset provide some security and some nurturing to us, then we have to invest in that when the time is right. That means early. That doesn't mean wait until the end of your life to go, oh, well, all I'm doing is paying taxes on this, so I'm going to go ahead and sell it, right? That's why in your second quarter, third quarter, halftime, first quarter, you need to be looking at how to acquire assets, and not only acquire assets, we have to learn how to grow assets. So those assets are over the course of time are feeding us and feeding us and feeding us residuals. And then it gets so big that it gets to the point where we can pass that down from generation to generation to generation. If we get to a place where we just give the asset back at the end of our lives, then that asset is, and it hasn't produced anything for us altogether, then we just paid to hold something, and then we gave all that money back. And if you know anything about what's going on today, the asset is appreciating. What you're trading for the asset, which is the dollar, is depreciating. So you're actually trading for something that's going down in value. You see what has happened is we bought into the system. The system, you know, and this is why you got to understand cycles, my people. You got to understand cycles of what's going on and what's important. It's not always the same. This is why rich people go broke, right? It's because they don't understand the cycles of value, right? It's about the cycles of value. And right now, when we were coming up, the value was to go into the marketplace, get a degree. That degree was valuable because then you could take that degree, and that degree commanded you a certain amount of money each and every year, right? You could get a job. Now that value proposition is changing. Now the value proposition is not so much degrees anymore, right? It's not so much about going in debt and getting degrees and buying into that system, because what that system did is it pulled you away from the system that allows you to have time to grow the asset. Right? So now we ignored the asset for 20, 30, 40 years. And now at the end, the asset is going up, but we haven't put anything into the asset because we bought into this system. Now, I'm not saying anything is wrong with education and getting your degrees. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is you got to understand how the value proposition flows.
So either, Latrice, I'll start with you. Any thoughts? Again, I just think these are the type of seeds. Again, we're fortunate enough inside of the Mental Dialogue Community Club on the Black and Platinum level. We have these conversations all the time. So, you know, again, I wasn't even trying to push back against Brandon, but you can imagine when I'm talking to people who are building assets, who are similar and doing things similar to you, Brandon, that's my relative experience. So I'm not saying I'm right, but I do see people who are like yourself, growing assets, doing what it takes, and having these type of conversations where they're saying, don't just buy an asset and not do anything with it. To your credit, you have a vision and you're actually doing exactly what that brother Billy Agnew said in there. So props to you. But Latrice, any final thoughts on that cut before we close out the show?
I think it's an important conversation to have for us to understand that owning the land is just part of the equation. It's what you do with the land that's where your legacy is either built or dismissed. So I definitely love the way that he put all of that. I think it's a message that needs to spread further, so that our community, as we begin to understand the need to acquire these assets, that we also begin to understand what we need to do once we acquire those assets.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of community. Like, I potentially have an opportunity. My stepmom, my dad passed away, a couple years ago, and my stepmom is offering a piece of land that they acquire as, something that I might could take. And so I'm fortunate enough to be able to talk to Billy or William, because I want to have that conversation before I even get the land. Because I could just get the asset, but I can admit I don't know what to do with it. So I'm fortunate enough to have somebody in my community that can make sure I am doing just what he said. Adeline, any thoughts on that cut? Again, this is just our extra in and stuff.
Yeah. No. And what's interesting, one of the thoughts that came to my mind is how do we define wealth in 2025? Is wealth the accumulation of, for example, stocks, money in different separate accounts and spread out, or is it these land appraisals, this idea of physical, tangible asset? In the sense of where wealth is, it means not only to the landowner but then to the future generations. We talk a lot about heirs property and estate property of what to pass down. Markets come and go, markets go up and down. But one of Brandon's refrains is one of his favorite quotes is that the United States can keep printing money and paper and money and degrees all day long, but they can't. You can't print land. It's there as a physical asset, and it's very little to go around. And so it's really what that context of what wealth is and the creation of it. And really, you're right. At the end of the day, it's about what we do with the said asset.
Yeah, Brandon, I'll give you a thought on that, man. Again, I just applaud you for doing, again, exactly what I hear in that actual cut from that brother. You're actually growing the asset, building and doing something with the land. And so, to your point earlier, you are an action doer. So much respect and salute to you. Again, if it felt like I was going back and forth, it was just trying to understand you.
Oh, no, I ain't take it that way.
Just making sure. But I respect that you actually know what to do with the land. Because if I had your land, I don't know what to do on it. So much respect to you, brother.
I didn't take it that way. I'm Adeline, no. That's why I say let Adeline talk for me sometime. I'm very
good.
I'm not corporate.
No, I love it raw though. I love being honest though. I love that more than
sum my
anything.
words up and make it sound,
No, I love it, brother.
I did send Alan a quick little video. I don't know if you're able to put it up before we get out, just so people can see. Like, I go visit Chastain Park frequently, and I study it.
Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to get it up on the screen.
I ride through there, and it's like I see the energy. So I took a video, and I even sent it to my council people, mayor, code enforcement. Like, look what they're doing. These houses are they taxes are more than South Fulton, their houses are better, and they're embracing this. You know why? Because they want to work, live, play, and they want something like this. Because fencing, horseback riding, these are activities that the elite put their kids in to meet other kids that come from other certain family backgrounds, so they can be connected. Just like how you send your kid to Harvard, not because you want to go in debt, you want them to rub shoulders
with connections
with someone else. Why you send your kids to private school? So it's like, why do we have to go to Churchill Down and just dress up and put the outfit on? Why can't we create our own Churchill Down? Why does the Bill Pickett have to be at Tanya's the horse park? Why Bill Pickett don't have their own arena? He's a big name. So all I'm saying is, I believe in equality. So I stand for the horse, the cattleman lifestyle. I
respect it, brother.
And that's my part. I'm not.
No, I respect it. And the thing is, I will say I love the fact that you sent the video to the particular people that you did, because it may take your vision being shown for them to actually see the bigger picture. I don't know that that's going to work, but I respect the fact that you did it, and you are still, in a sense, not just on your land, but you're like, let me keep showing y'all the vision. I hope the documentary helps more people see your vision. Thank you for your time, brother. Thank all of y'all for your time. And Please subscribe to the page if you're in Atlanta. Let me play this little clip to close out, which is just letting people know about the Mental Dialogue Live experience. That's where our community connects every third Friday. But again, thank y'all for y'all time, and share this video if y'all saw any importance or nuggets that people need to get, especially when it comes to growing assets. And I'm gonna close out again with this commercial just to say, hey, come out next Friday if you're in Atlanta. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for y'all time. All I ask is that you think.
All right. Peace. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
All right.
The Mental Dialogue Live experience returns September the 19th at Urban Grind as we put on our game night, debates, networking, and coffee. Also featuring MD member Andre Parker's book signing, The Infinite Legacy Blueprint, learning about generational wealth. So join us for one of the funnest and smartest game nights in the city, including our debate game, counter argument, where we pit two teams against each other and see who is the best at critical thinking. Connect with us to find information and the people you need to progress your life. All details at MentalDialogue.com. All I ask is that you think. All right, y'all, we gone.
All right, peace.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.